In today's video, I'll go over the upcoming new mulligan, also known as the London Mulligan. Let's first take a quick look how the new mulligan will work. It is quite simple. Every time you take a mulligan, you will always draw a hand equal to the starting hand size, which is in 99% of the cases in standard 7. Then you put X number of cards on the bottom of your deck equal to the number of mulligans you have taken. In short, you will essentially always get to look at 7 cards when you take a mulligan, then you get to choose which cards goes to the bottom of your deck, unless you somehow have taken 7 mulligans, in which case you have bigger problems. Anyway, if you haven't tried the London Mulligan yet, there is currently an event in MTG Arena that allows you to test it. Next month, on July the 2nd, it will become the new standard mulligan in all formats on MTG Arena. On June the 12th, it will become the new mulligan for all Magic. So why are Wizard making this change to the mulligan? Let's look at a quote from the article itself. Quote, "The goal of this new London mulligan is to make games where one or more players mulligan more competitive, especially in cases where players mulligan an unequal number of times. In particular, greater selection of the starting hand will reduce the number of non-games where a player's deck is unable to function due to not having reasonable mix of lands and spells." End quote. In short, they want to increase the competitive level whenever you are forced to mulligan and reduce the risk of you getting a completely unusable hand, such as 0 lands, 1 land and 5 cards that have a very high mana cost, etc, etc. Of course, you will still have those moments when you lose because of the draw early on, but with this new London Mulligan, they are hoping that such events will be less frequent. Let's have a look at another part of the article. Quote, "A player who mulligans once against an opponent who keeps 7 cards, in general, is at a more of a disadvantage than we are comfortable with. The situation gets even worse for a player who mulligans 2 or more times more than their opponent. We also dislike that some of those games play out in an uninteresting ways, where it's clear that the game was nearly over before it began based on starting hands alone." End quote. According to their own internal testing, which has gone on for 6 months, the new London Mulligan has done a better work than our current Vancouver Mulligan. When it comes to the different formats, I have no issue with the new London Mulligan for standard. Competitive combo decks has very rarely been a thing in Standard's history. While Nexus of Fate is a design mistake, the deck does not lock you out from the game and it doesn't win on turn 1, 2, 3. I know that to a certain degree, Mono Blue before War of the Spark could actually lock you out of the game 100% without skill having a factor, but it was not always given, and with the new AoE land from War of the Spark, Mono Blue is seeing a lot less play, as well as being hard countered by the land itself. When it comes to Legacy, well, let's be real here. Legacy is a dying format with unreasonable high entrance cost, resulting in very few people actually joining the format. Of course, if Wizards were to actually reprint the lands, well, the drama would be fun at the very least. So that leaves Modern. Well, Vintage is a thing, I guess. Anyway, Modern will more than likely see the most impactful changes with the new mulligan. However, since my focus is on MTG Arena, going through all the Modern would take a lot of time and be very confusing to any MTG Arena viewer who is not yet invested in Modern. In short, I don't think it will break Modern and make it unplayable. However, it will no doubt change the meta a lot more than it will change in Standard. When it comes to our Standard, the deck I will be watching the most will be Red Deck Wins, due to the unreasonable amount of draw power the current Red Deck Wins has, especially when you factor in just how unstable the mana base is for some of our big 3-color decks. If you want to read more about Wizards' own public statement, check the official post on their site. The link will be in the description down below. I should also mention that while some decks might find their key cards with the new mulligan a bit easier, same goes for cards you have in the sideboard, assuming it was not 4 copies. If this will balance itself out in the long run is something that we have to see once Wizards are able to gather a lot more data from all their different platforms. In conclusion, I do believe that the new London Mulligan will work out quite well. And if it turns into a disaster, Wizards can always revert to our current Mulligan rules. They did state that they don't want to have different Mulligan rules for different formats, which is a noble idea. We shall see if they are able to live up to it. Anyway, in the next video I'll be reviewing Red Deck wins, hopefully before Saturday, if I can get around to ink the thumbnail. Anyway, this is Project signing out.